Hello, hello. Thought I'd do a quick health update and also talk about something that I heard recently. So for one thing, I had deviated a little bit from my diet. I was starting to get quite a bit of a fatigue from just eating meat and fat. Mainly the fat thing was, uh, I guess my stomach was doing well and all that. It's just that it wasn't becoming. Maybe I'm not thinking outside the box, but it's not. It doesn't feel very enjoyable. um, but I'm restart my journey. Um, People will say probably like, well, I don't actually. I shouldn't really care about what people say because this is my own journey. I'm documenting it for self purposes. If y'all want to reference it or listen to it, that's up to y'all. I've never made the intention of concealing anything in that nature, but yeah, just gonna do better. All right, we learn a little bit each day. Another thing is, I think they say that starting April 2024, I don't know the exact date, Japanese government is gonna ban tourists from you know, entering certain areas in Kyoto, um, because of how, if you do pay attention to what's happening, there have been tourists that have been arrested because of improper behavior, not really adhering to, I guess, in a sense, like politeness or just general normal respectful behavior, and it's putting a bad rap for a a good number of us who we actually do the research before going into a country to make sure that we're adhering to the behavior, we're understanding where the respectful boundaries are. But these folks want to, um, I guess maybe because they're young, I don't think that should be a factor sometimes. If you're able to go into another country and you're so-called a social influencer, you should really know how to behave because you're representing a certain group of people as well as a certain country. It's always good to do your research beforehand visiting a country. Like some countries don't like physical body contact. Some places, there are certain customs that that's considered respectful. I mean, the effort to even look into it and try um, is at the end of the day appreciated. And Japanese people, when I visited Japan, are some of the most hospitable. Um, I would say friendly people that are very much willing to talk to you if you put in the effort to actually even utilize a few bits of Japanese phrases. It's very, I have I wouldn't say conversational, but very basic Japanese language, and they very much appreciate it. When I do try to talk to them, they would try to talk to me slowly and make conversation. Um, but it's just a matter of doing your research beforehand. There's certain, and even if that's not the case, touching a geisha when they didn't give you permission to do so, I think like over here in America, you would absolutely ask the person if you can touch them beforehand, right? I mean, there's this whole um, um, you know, I guess like, depending on which political aisle you're on, but like, oh, asking people's pronouns to be more inclusive, I think it kind of is the same thing, especially its physical boundaries and any type of touch that is unwarranted can be, perceived as sexual harassment, assault, and all that. So knowing your basics, even like making sure you understand how to be a human and being respectful is so important. Um, you shouldn't have those type of behaviors at all. I mean, before I went to Japan, I actually we did a ton of research about like how to behave like a local um, Japanese person. You know, certain laws that are certain actions that are kind of frowned upon by um, the Japanese people. For instance, crossing the street even though there's no cars passing by, but the light, the traffic light indicates that you shouldn't be crossing. You should adhere to it, and it makes sense, right? No J crossing, even if there's no cars in the road. Um, Not eating and walking at the same time. Um, I think it's just considered a little like mm, impolite and also a little crass. And then I think also in consideration to like the litter situation. If you're sitting and eating in a place where you're allowed to, there's garbage cans around. There's less of an issue with the litter, and Japan is a very clean country. Kind of, you can kind of see where they're coming from. In addition to that, people don't really shake hands. You can bow to them. I think uh, I don't mean like bending at the waist, but doing a nod is very appreciated. Um, uh, I'm trying to think. Yeah, there. If somebody gives you their name card, um, it's 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 like a very big thing. You should really receive it with both hands, and bow and thank, because I think there's it's not something that people necessarily like easily do. There's a certain formality to it, and like here in the U.S., you just give a card and a person take it like, hey, thank you, and that's it. That's not the case. You don't necessarily give her your card that easily. Uh, I'm trying to think. Also, praying at the temple, there's a certain way to do it. There's a certain way to walk into the temple, certain etiquettes that I hear. I'm like, why are people climbing on statues and stuff? That's so disrespectful. And sometimes when I see it here, I'm like, y'all effing stupid. What if you fall and hurt yourself? Not discount, not just for the fact that like, oh, what if it's a historical figure and you're climbing on them? Like shouldn't you should learn what the statue represents, what it's about, instead of worrying about whether your next photo op or picture on Instagram or wherever sharing with your friends is like exciting or not. There's a certain like disregard for what things represent. Um, you know, Talking with your cell phones on the train, I find that very annoying here. But because this is a so-called quote unquote free country, there's also a lack of consideration people have for others. People may not want to listen to, on in your videos that you're watching because you don't bother to put on a pair of Bluetooth or just regular headphones, or you're having your conversations speakerphone. That's like, don't it should be a private conversation between you and that person and stuff. People playing loud music is also mad annoying, especially if it's like 8 o'clock in the a weekend. You think about it, people are sleeping in sometimes, or they're, I don't know, but not everybody wants to hear your music. Music is very subjective, and I think it's just thinking about putting yourself in the other person's shoes. What if they're sick at home? They're not feeling well. Then you have this bass going boom, boom, boom. And all they want, and what if they're suffering from a migraine and loud noises actually causes this problem? I mean, there's so many things to think about, how your actions can affect others, but folks just don't seem to be thinking about that anymore. Um, Maybe I can't say that it's completely attributed, or like that having a free society is a bad thing, but if it's to the point where it's kind of at the other people's, that so-called living freely is at the other people's expenses, then I do wonder what the Japanese government is doing is completely wrong. I totally understand where they're coming from, and um, yeah, y'all tourists need to get your act together, or we to the tourists need to get our act together. We really need to do the research. If we're doing research about which places to go to, we should also research about the type of behavior that is acceptable. And also the laws that we have to adhere to, because you're in another person's country. I think there's nothing wrong with trying to fit in a little, and actually that in essence actually opens up ways and you can learn about the different cultures and how to interact with the people there. It actually leans into another side, like, oh, you're because I think if you behave a certain way, it also allows you to learn about the people in a certain way. If you behave badly, you're gonna get a certain equal level of reciprocation. Meaning, if you behave out of there, you're disrespectful, you're gonna get that disrespect back. Respect is earned, right? I think that's pretty much anywhere. So, just food for thought.